Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about emotions. How to make emotions our friends, and because there's so many feelings that arise from our emotions, how to use those as a compass to what we need to do next in order for us to alleviate the feelings and or the emotions that are making us feel uncomfortable in the first place. Now, today's episode is also going to be podcasted on Happy Hour with me, Anna Morfidis from Many Hearts Counseling. And without further ado, let's dive into it. So, emotions, which are literally energy in motion. And now we know that the energy of that emotion, not only is it measured in hertz, like as a frequency, as a frequency, it is measured in hertz because that is what the measurement of energy is. It has a specific value that affects our human consciousness. And it is really, really important to change our emotions from the ones that are lying at the bottom of the diagram here. And this was created by the author David B. Hawkins. He was the one that mapped out the human emotions, and we can see that if you live in apathy, guilt, shame, greed, fear, desire, anger, the frequency of that is quite low, and then the predominant emotion that comes from that is going to be anxiety, regret, despair, blame, humiliation, and then a life view of that is miserable, evil, hopeless, tragic, frightened, disappointed. So I remember what it was like to be living in these emotions, because this is what I had acquired as a child from my primary caregiver, and I guess in general, the world that was unfolding around me at that time. I later on learned that not only can I change the frequency of emotion that essentially surrounds me, but that frequency of emotion that surrounds me is the point of attraction for the experiences in my life. Because based on Newton's laws of energy, like attracts like, and the law of attraction working by assertion, never by force, as we know in physics and or chemical reactions, what comes in is not forced, it's just basically it's drawn in, it comes in, and it meets that frequency at that same level. So if you want to receive more, you raise your frequency so then you can be met by more. So that's our superpower as humans, is to transmute from the 5 predominant emotions, if you remember the movie Inside Out, but also this is what the scientific world teaches as well. There's fear, anger, disgust, sadness, and joy. When we are living predominantly in these emotions, they are telling us that something inside of us needs to shift, because we can transmute it right back into joy. Very often, we feel perhaps maybe even as victims to what we experienced in our childhood, even adolescent years, sometimes even our earlier adult years. And we don't realize that we actually have power to harvest that hurt or disappointment or anger or sadness or whatever it is that we actually signed up to experience in this life. I truly do believe that our soul is eternal. The energy that makes us who we are does travel through time and embodies this beautiful human suit that we are gifted with in a particular lifetime, and we choose the lessons that we want to experience with who we want to experience it with, and there's many different roads that we can take. So every time we try something, it's never really right or wrong, it will just take you in a different route. But the point of life is to essentially get to where you want to come back home to yourself, where you are whole and complete. And we cannot be whole and complete unless we release and heal all of our past experiences that are causing us to have hurt in the first place. So that's why emotions are really important to understand, because it tells you where you are with yourself internally. Like, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about life? How do you feel that life is treating you? What do you think that maybe others are contributing to what you're feeling? Because very often we say things such as, oh, he hurt me, or she hurt me, or they disappointed me. And then my counselor always reminds me, they never did that to you. You allowed someone to hurt you. I allowed someone to hurt me. I allowed someone to disappoint me. And then our job is to work backwards from there and see, what are we mirroring back to us from that particular person and or experience? If we're allowing somebody else to hurt us, how are we hurting ourselves? Is it with our self-talk? Is it with our lack of sleep? Is it our eating habits? How are we hurting ourselves? Same if you feel disappointed. Where in your life are you disappointing yourself? We use the uncomfortable emotions that other people are allowing us to feel, that exist within ourselves, so we can heal and change that. Because 99.99% of the time, that disappointment or that hurt is alive from our childhood, when we acquire our attachment style. So if your primary caregiver let you down, because back then none of this stuff was really in the forefront of education. Never mind that my parents didn't even have a full education. They grew up in a small village in Greece, so they did not even have the opportunity to know what it's like to be a parent, to give your child a secure attachment style. They just were doing what they were learning. So it's not like my parents let me down. It was just how society was operating at the time. So I didn't have a chance to receive the 4 S's that we now know are required in order for a child to have a secure attachment style, which means to have a positive self-view and predominantly live in joy about themselves and the world around them. Not that they don't experience life hardships, it's just they experience it different, because they're able to navigate life, because their frequency, their starting frequency is that of up here and not down here. So that disappointment and that hurt, or maybe it's abandonment that you're experiencing, what is that feeling and or emotion that you're feeling? That exists in you from your childhood or your adolescent years, and it's there and it's being triggered. And if you take a chance to look at it, then you can let go of that hurt or that abandonment wound, the disappointment. And I guess this is where therapy comes in. Perhaps even hypnotherapy, regression therapy, logotherapy, any sort of therapy, because you can pinpoint the experience, or like the first time you experienced that feeling. Like, when was the first time you actually felt disappointed? When's the first time you felt hurt? And then we can release that and let that go. And then that will also help us to continue on a path of not disappointing ourselves anymore, not hurting ourselves anymore, not causing anxiety to ourselves anymore. Like, if this was something that you experienced in your earlier life, now is your opportunity to change and transmute that emotion back into joy. And remember, it is your birthright to have everything that you've ever wanted to experience, and never doubt that you cannot have it, because very often I'll hear people I work with say, that could never happen to me. They're so lucky. Or so-and-so will never change. I'm never going to be able to find love. I won't be able to get that job. No one respects me. Like, these sort of things, these absolute non-truths are just created from unhelpful core beliefs that were acquired when we were children. And they can easily be changed with the power of affirmations, because you're going to be affirming and saying completely different thoughts to yourself consciously, and then in the hopes that that new consciousness will also be part of your new subconscious way of thinking and feeling, because 95% of our nervous system is actually subconscious and we're not really conscious of it. Like, I didn't really know what the narrative or the story I was telling myself day in and day out was, until I learned in school that all I had to do is take a look at the life around me, and all the disappointment and the hurt and the angst and the sadness, like all that was actually still created by me with the subconscious beliefs that I had absorbed about the world that would produce thoughts, and those thoughts would produce my emotions, and then my emotions will produce my behaviors. That's the basis of cognitive behavioral therapy. And it was this vicious cycle that I didn't know how to get out of, and I felt like I was like a hamster in a wheel. But thank God for counseling school, not only for learning the modalities, but using the modalities on ourselves. And I realized that I can change all that for myself. I can understand where the original emotions, where the shame, the guilt, all that stuff, where it came from, and release it once and for all. And now, through the power of neuroplasticity, affirm new things about who I believe that I am. And it will feel fake in the beginning, because all these years you've been telling yourself this other story. So you didn't believe that story right away. It took a long time for you to create this new neurological pathways to begin with. So it will take time to actually start to believe the new story, but eventually you will start to believe the new story. And that's going to be your new point of attraction for basically your new life. You will have a chance to have a renewed sense of living life, because you're going to be in full control. Your emotions are going to be your friend, and you're not going to let them take you under. You're going to do the work to see where that emotion started from originally. Why is it visiting? How can you help yourself to not stay in that emotion and transmute back into joy? Because that's our superpower. And so on and so on. And a little bit at a time. It can feel overwhelming, but it is totally doable. And if you feel like you want to journal or write down your predominant emotions that you feel, and again, like, when was the first time you maybe experienced it? Who do you need to forgive? Is it yourself? Is it another person? And then raise your own frequency. And I mean, the easiest way to do this is by doing gratitude and self-love. I am actually doing a self-love workshop. It was suggested that I do this, and I'm so glad I took the time to do so. You will find it on my YouTube channel. So we're going to be starting week 3 today, actually, and of cultivating self-love, because a lot of us didn't have a chance to cultivate that when we were children. And as adults, that lack of love that we have for ourselves very often is reflected back to us from the world around us. And we're not really understanding, like, why are people treating me this way? Why is this happening to me? Why can anyone love me? And then it was like an aha moment. Oh, yes, I don't have that self-love for myself. I need to change that in order for the world to change and meet me where I am now. So we're using Louise Hayes' book, Mirror Work. And for those that don't know who Louise Hay is, she was someone who went through a lot in her childhood, a lot of abuse, including sexual abuse. She got cancer, but she was able to heal her entire life with the power of affirmations and changing her mindset and truly believing in the power that we have as humans, and stop feeling like victim, taking control and power back. And instead of surviving, turn that into thriving. And the best way to start is with loving ourselves and all parts of ourselves and everything that we have experienced so far. Because as Masha Linehan says, the creator of dialectical behavioral therapy, change cannot be created without acceptance. So acceptance is huge, and look where it is on this diagram. It's right up here, very close to love actually, and the predominant emotion that comes from that is forgiveness, and the life view is harmonious. So who does not want to live harmoniously and just forgive? Because at the end of the day, if we don't forgive and we hold on to things, we are hurting ourselves by doing that, by holding on to that resentment, and then that can show up in our body as diseases and other things that are not comfortable. I'm going to stop it right here. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me. I am really, really appreciative of all this knowledge that exists out there and is gifted to us. And I'm able to gift to those who have not had a chance to run into it yet. With all of my love and gratitude, I will see you next week for our surprise new topic.